Today I'm driving a very cool car. I'm driving a Targa GTS, the new 991.2 version. Well, obviously not new anymore. There's the 992 coming out shortly of this, probably a year or two for the Targa. And what's cool about this car is a number of things. Yes, this is a very high spec Targa GTS. It even has leather on the air vents. In fact, this car has a little over $60,000 in options, which is cool. It's also owned by a friend of mine, so I've been meaning to do a video on this for like a year, but just never got around to it. And of course now I'm doing it in the middle of winter when it's freezing cold. I was even wearing a hat before, but I ended up looking like that guy from Savage Geese, so I quickly took the hat off again. But of course the coolest thing about this car is that it's a Targa. I absolutely love the Targa models. The Targa models hold their value better than any other mainline model 911. That is, outside the GT cars, the Targas are the ones that really retain their value. And the reason for that is they're pretty rare. There's not that many Targas on the road. And of course the second interesting thing about this is that it is a GTS model. And as you know, I'm not always a huge fan of the GTS models, as most people are, and most people think that Nick should be taken out the back and hit repeatedly with a stick for being so harsh on GTS models. The reason I'm not a big fan of the GTS models is mostly due to the engine in them. And I know what you're saying. Oh Nick, what could possibly be wrong with the engine in a GTS? It's 30 horsepower more. That's got to be better, right? Well, and that's true. It's definitely good to have an extra bit of horsepower, and you can certainly feel that little peak of extra torque right around the 4,000 to 5,000 RPM. Just feels a little more torquey than the S models. So how do they get that extra 30 horsepower out of the 3-litre engine? Well, of course they add larger turbochargers, and just like any car that you add larger turbochargers to, the net result is that you get a little bit more turbo lag. And I can certainly feel it when I drive GTS models. I think people that own GTS will never notice because they've got nothing to compare it to. But coming out of an S or a base model Carrera, I notice there's just a little bit more lag. The other thing, of course, and maybe this is my imagination, but I think they don't sound quite as good as the S and the base model Carreras. Those turbos just mute the sound just a little bit. I don't know, you guys be the judge. I've got a recording of both this car with the sports exhaust and an S model with the sports exhaust. You see what you think. So let's talk about the Targa for a moment. When the 991.1 Targa first came out, a lot of people complained that the cabin noise was too high. And part of that was that people forgot to put the little spoiler up. When the spoiler's down, you get a lot more of the windmilling inside the cabin. But this tiny little spoiler at the top here just gets rid of that. And it's actually a very comfortable cabin and a lot quieter than the Cabriolet, that's for sure. So the other thing you notice with the Targa is a change in handling. And that's due to the extra 200 pounds of weight, which is located above the center, mostly to do with the Targa top, of course. And due to this, I think the PDCC, which is the Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control, is a must-to-have when you own a Targa, because that really helps alleviate the body roll that you see with these heavier top cars. But what I will say is that there is a huge difference between the .1 and the .2 generation of these cars. The .1 generation, even with the PDCC, really seem to wallow in the corners to me and handled very un-Porsche 911 like. Whereas the .2, this generation, they've really stiffened it up and well, it's still noticeable that there's a little bit of body roll there. Unlike other 911s, it's a lot more controlled. So for those of you that remember, I did drive a .1 generation GTS Targa, and I really wasn't a big fan of it because it handled so poorly, and that particular engine, with the way it delivered torque down low, didn't do that car any favors. Whereas this generation, the .2, I absolutely love the GTS treatment in this. I think the extra power of the GTS engine helps hide that 200 extra pounds of weight, and overall I think they've just done a great job tuning this model. So while I wasn't a huge fan of the previous generation of this particular model, I think this one gets it just right. So now I'll go and stop and we'll have a closer look around some of the upgrades that this particular car's got, which are pretty extensive. Finally, let's take a look at how we managed to pack a modest $60,000 worth of options into this GTS Targa. On the outside there are many big ticket options like custom coloured paint and the yellow carbon ceramic brakes, but many of the options seen here are actually free with the GTS package, like the sports grille at the front, the 20mm lowered active suspension management, and of course the leave me stranded in the middle of nowhere centre lock wheels. On the inside the money keeps rolling out with 8K's worth of GTS package upgrades. I like the colours, but the mix of leather, Alcantara, carbon fibre and deviated stitching is a little bit busy for my taste. But the real magic in this Targa is over here where you plonk your ass down. Custom tailored hound suit fabric seats with custom piping. Ah, so awesome. So long as you can overlook the $11,000 price tag. Then, as mentioned earlier, the vents in leather. And in a final attempt to push this car over the $200,000 mark, the backlit door sills. On a production side note, in the making of this video I accidentally damaged the Alcantara in this car when one of my cameras fell off the window. This was due to me not taking care to completely wipe down every suction mount beforehand as I normally do. This is the very first car I've ever damaged in one of my reviews, and I am embarrassed and pretty horrified that I damaged this car. Anyway, I will of course be replacing the damaged item, and Joe, the owner of this car, was very understanding, so I'm grateful for that. Lessons learned. And in closing, I know people are going to put in the comments, "Hey Nick, where's the drag race?" And you're so right. This would have been a very interesting drag race because Joe's Targa GTS is a manual transmission and my car's a manual transmission. His is a little heavier, mine's a little lighter. It would have been a very even race. Unfortunately, I still haven't got my Carrera 4S back from being repaired, so maybe when I get it back we'll add a separate video of us doing a drag race because I think it would be a very interesting result. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and don't forget, if you want to express yourself with a Nick Murray t-shirt, I'll put the link to my shop down below. Check it out. T-shirts, stamps, towels, fun stuff. Thanks for watching everyone. See you soon. Bye then.